So many new releases that came up in the last couple months, and everyone is hyping them or just excited to discuss them. Let's see what they are all about. Hi everyone, I'm Jolima. I am a fragrance lover since forever, and this is my channel Scented Moments, where we discuss everything about fragrances since 2018. And in this video we will dive into some of the most anticipated new fragrance releases from the most popular brands like Creed, Tom Ford, Hermes, Guerlain. The list goes on. More specifically, 13 fragrances that I tried just 2 days ago, and I recorded my raw, unfiltered first impressions on the spot. So this video is basically a follow-up to my first impressions. So what we'll do is I will first show you my first impressions of each fragrance, and then my final verdict. But again, these are still in the end more first impressions than true fragrance reviews, because I mean I didn't spend much time testing, just really a couple of days, but I already have an idea about these fragrances that I want to share with you. I already have my thoughts, and so let's see what will be the conclusion and what will be the standouts out of all of these new releases. And here is the much anticipated new release from Kilian Old Fashioned. I believe this is a re-release. This was previously known as single malt, came in a different bottle, like in the standard bottles of Kilian fragrances. So Old Fashioned, at least this is first impressions, it's very boozy, very alcohol-like, of course, like the name implies, like very whiskey-like, with woods, very woodsy, and a bit kind of aniseed, I would say. It has like an aniseed, the woodsy, and very alcoholic beverage like whiskey, of course, again like the name implies. So far I'm really liking this fragrance. I'm not big on Kilian, but I think I will give a second chance to the brand. I will rediscover some of their classics like Intoxicated, Back to Black Phantom. I'm not huge on Angel Shares, which is their most popular fragrance, but yes, this Old Fashioned, so far I'm really liking it. So talking about Kilian's Old Fashioned, as you saw from the first impressions, yes, it's a fragrance that I really liked in the opening. It's very alcoholic beverage-like. I mean, of course, like the name implies, very strong in this whiskey accord, and a bit, I would say, it has this licoricey nuance as well, like aniseed. Although I think the fragrance doesn't list aniseed as an official note, but it has this licoricey feel. However, despite the amazing opening, and I tested on my skin, but this Old Fashioned feels very thin, to be honest. It's not a fragrance that will project. It's more of a skin scent, and while it still lasts, I mean, at least solid 5 hours, but it's not something that wowed me that much. Love the opening, but then the development is a bit flat, because all of that boozy licorice fades away, and then you just have like this dry woods in the base, like cedar wood like. I mean, it's okay, but not a fragrance that impressed me that much, to be honest. Nonetheless, I really want to give Kilian a second chance, and I want to rediscover their fragrances, like Intoxicated, like Black Phantom, like Back to Black, like I mentioned in my first impressions, just to see if any of my thoughts will change, any of my opinions on the house will change. But regarding Old Fashioned, it's okay. It's a nice fragrance. Here we have the new Akro Glow. Actually, I'm a fan of Akro, although I haven't talked about this house in my channel because I don't have any fragrance from this house yet, but I really do like a few of them, like Dark, Smoke, Ink, and also it's a new Extrait de Parfum. And in the end, this is a light, ambery, vanillic, incensey fragrance.
I really like it. Actually, I think it's a solid fragrance from the brand. I don't know if I love it, but I think it's a good fragrance. Smells nice. Again, a lighter take on this ambery, smoky type of perfumes. Yeah, let's see how this will develop. But yeah, I like it, but it's not a love.
Now the next one is Akro Glow. So I'm a fan of Akro. Like I said in the intro, I'm a fan of a couple of their fragrances. Glow, it's another nice smelling fragrance. Nothing new, nothing amazing, nothing mind-blowing. It's just really a lighter take on an ambery, spicy fragrance. That's it. Pure and simple. The performance also, it's fine, nothing amazing. So yeah, I still prefer the first fragrances, the original fragrances from Akro. I think Akro kind of deviated from their original idea, which is all about addictions. And so I think they really deviated from that, and now they are going to a new territory, which I really do not understand. What's the idea behind their newer releases? But yes, it's an okay fragrance, but again, nothing mind-blowing.
And here we have Oud Stallion, also a newish release from Maison Crivelli, followed by Oud Maracuya, which I'm a huge fan of. Unfortunately, I have yet to have a full bottle of it, but Oud Stallion is very different from Oud Maracuya. Oud Stallion is more leathery, but this one is very pungent. It's really a bomb. Very dark, very smoky, very leathery. I like it, but although to my nose I don't detect much wood in here, it has definitely woodsy undertones, but I don't know if it's in fact like a pure oud note. But again, that's just my opinion. But I would say that the most prominent note here is leather, very dark, smoky leather. It's a nice fragrance. Again, a bomb, very intense, but it's not a fragrance that wowed me. I still prefer Oud Maracuya.
Then we have Maison Crivelli's Oud Stallion. Oud Stallion, it's more than oud, it's leather. I would say it's very heavy on the leather. It's very dark, oily type of leather, and the performance is immense. But Maison Crivelli, usually their fragrances, they really last and project a lot. So Oud Stallion is not an exception, but I would say that Oud Stallion is more challenging, not because, to my nose at least, there is oud in there, or any malic oud, to be honest. Again, just my nose, just my opinion. For me, what I really get more is leather, a very industrial, dark, oily type of leather. It's a nice fragrance, but again, it was a fragrance that didn't impress me, and it's very linear. During the lifespan of the fragrance, it's very linear. So basically, almost what you get in the opening is what you get in the dried on, but maybe more tamed. It's a very abrasive opening, I would say, very abrasive, a bit piercing, and then kind of settles, and you have this dark, oily industrial type of leather. That's it. I would say that there might be some woodsy undertones there, but I think the leather is like the main chord here. I still prefer Oud Maracuya from this line, like oud line from Maison Crivelli. I think Oud Maracuya, it's fantastic, like a tropical woodsy fragrance. Yeah, Oud Stallion, again, it's okay.
So here we have the new Penhaligons, Dandy, and I was very curious to try this one. I'm actually a fan of Penhaligon, especially their more ambery, sweeter fragrances. And this one, I think this is from their Trade Roots collection, if I'm not mistaken. And this one is a boozy, whiskey, spicy, bit floral, vanillic fragrance. It's quite nice, actually. Very gentlemanly, mature type of perfume, and I definitely want to try this one more often. And yeah, let's see how this will develop.
So the next fragrance that we have is Penhaligon's The Dandy. Another fragrance that I was very curious to try. I'm a fan of Penhaligon, especially their more sweeter, ambery fragrances. The Dandy, it's nice, actually. I really like the experience. It's a boozy, again, whiskey with a bit of a raspberry, like it has like a red fruity undertones, boozy again, with patchouli and some vanilla. Nothing crazy, nothing mind-blowing, again, nothing new. But I really like it, to be honest. I will never pay for retail. I will just try to find like a good deal online. But before doing so, I want to experience more times the Dandy by Penhaligon's. Overall, I like the experience. It has some developments. It's a fragrance that it's not just linear. Linear is not bad, but the fragrance house that does linear like any other is my all-time favorite, Parfum Broma. So Penhaligon's The Dandy opens up like with this fruitiness, red fruitiness, very boozy with whiskey, and then turns into a more earthy patchouli, vanillic type of fragrance. It's nice. I really did like it. I think so far was my favorite, but out of the ones that I already talked about, but I think they are better fragrances out there, especially in this genre. Again, I will try them again. I'll try this fragrance again to see how it is, if it changes or not. But yeah, so far I think it was like the best fragrance that I tried, but let's see the other releases.
And here we have the new fragrance from Maison Crivelli, Tubereuse Astrale, released earlier this year, part of the Extrait de Parfum line. Just like here, where you have Ambre Chromatique, Hibiscus Maillard, which I love. You also have Patchouli Magnétique here, which is my favorite from this line, actually. Tubereuse Astrale, I mean, it's a nice tuberose, kind of bubblegummy, peachy perfume. I don't know if it's that good. It's a good perfume, but nothing mind-blowing, nothing unique, although I'm still curious to see how this will develop on my skin. So far, I say it's an okay release. Fruity, peachy, tuberose, a bit bubbly, bubblegummy. Let's see how this will develop.
The next we have Maison Crivelli again, but this time Tubereuse Astrale, which was released earlier this year. As well, it was a fragrance that I was really curious to try, because I like Maison Crivelli fragrances, a few of them, like Iris Malicam, Patchouli Magnétique, Hibiscus Maillard. I mean, I already said that in my first impressions, but and so I'm always curious to try their new releases. Tubereuse Astrale, I like Tubereuse actually. It's a fragrance note that I learned to appreciate later last year, and so I have a few amazing Tubereuse fragrances like Nuit de Bakelite by Naomi Gutzer, Odor 93 by Mel Fouchouni, Fougère Amrode by Les Indémodables. So yes, I have a few amazing Tubereuse fragrances. Tubereuse Astrale is not one of them. To be honest, sadly, I really wanted to like this fragrance, but I didn't understand the hype. It's just a bubblegummy, more bright tuberose with nothing much going on, to be honest. Very flat, very linear, and the performance wasn't great either. So it was really a probably the most disappointing fragrance, because of the hype that it was built around this fragrance during the year, and in the end it's just a bubbly, more fluffy, happy type of tuberose, a bit creamy, yes, but that's about it. Nothing like out of space, nothing cosmic that I got from that perfume at all. So yes, it was a letdown, to be honest.
And now we have here the new Guerlain from the revamped Absolute Allegorious, which were previously known as Les Absolus d'Orient. So these are now the old bottles, and this is how the new bottles look like. This is Santal Royal. Actually, I already tried and compared with the original Santal Royal, and actually it smells the same, didn't change, so that's good. About Rose Amira, it's a nice rose, but it's something that it's being done, and there's nothing unique about this. It's a nice rose again, a bit shampooey. It has definitely like a shampooey feeling to it, but it's not a totally bad thing. Just has like a clean, watery, shampooey feeling to it, which is nice. I mean, it smells nice. It's a decent rose fragrance, but again, nothing new. It has like some patchouli, I would say, at least for first impressions. It has some earthiness into it, but yes, I'm not impressed, to be honest. It's a good, decent rose fragrance, but this type of perfume, it's late for like 10 years at least, but well, still not a bad rose fragrance, and it's a rose that you can check out if you are a fan of rose perfumes in the end.
Next we have Guerlain's Rose Amira. Actually, this release took me off guard. I was not expecting that Guerlain would release like a new fragrance from this Absolute line, which was Absolute d'Orient. Now it's just the Absolute Allegoria. Okay, fragrance. Another meh type of perfume. Yes, it's good. It's a very pleasant smell, especially if you love rose. I think it's one fragrance that it's worth trying at least. It's a very nice, borderline natural smelling rose, but it has a shampooey quality into it, like a clean, shampooey type of feeling to it. And again, it's not fragrance that changed that much. It's basically all about rose. It has some sweet undertones in there, not being like a full jammy rose, but it's basically a fresh, clean, shampooey rose with some sweetness underneath, maybe vanilla. Nice. It's a fragrance that smells nice, but it's not a fragrance that I really will try to discover more. I have a lot of rose fragrances. I love rose, and I have what I consider to be the best rose selection out there. So, I mean, I don't need another rose fragrance, basically.
And now we have the new Barenia from Hermes. Also very curious to try this one. And this is a Nouveau Hermes. I think it's a continuation of H24. It has like an H24 feeling to it, but maybe more polished, a bit more refined, definitely very berry-like in the opening, fruity berry with a bit of a white floral in there. And then it definitely has that Akigala wood that where we can find as well in the Ganymede, but also H24, that line of Hermes is also a bit inspired by Ganymede, and not similar, but there's definitely like an inspiration into it. And the Barenia is basically a continuation of that. Again, more sophisticated, more elegant, and I quite like it actually. I'm a fan of H24, the H24 line, and this one is also a fragrance that I want to try more often, but for first impressions, I really like it.
Now, Hermes Barenia, I think it was really one of the standouts of the new releases that I tried. So like I said in my first impressions, it's really in the vein of a Nouveau Hermes, where they have this Akigala wood, this steaminess, which kind of, you can see it also in Ganymede. I can see a lot of inspiration of the new Hermes, more mainstream fragrances from Ganymede, from Marc-Antoine Barrois. And there are rumors speculating that Quentin Biche, the parfumeur of Ganymede by Marc-Antoine Barrois, will be the new in-house parfumeur at Hermes. I don't know if these rumors are right or not, but what I can see is that there is definitely a pattern in the new Hermes fragrances, and I actually do love it. I love this fragrance style. I love Ganymede, so it's only natural that I appreciate these new Hermes fragrances. And so Barenia is basically a true, more elegant version of H24 and that whole line of H24. Yes, a bit fruity in the opening, but in terms of performance is amazing, lasts for a very long time. Actually, it's another Parfum concentration, so I really loved how the fragrance really developed on my skin. Again, very elegant to my nose, and I love the opening, that fruity, a bit playful, yes, opening, but after that it's a superb scent. Really love to experience this fragrance, and it's full bottle worthy.
And here we have Hope, the new fragrance from Frederic Malle from the Desert Gems collection. Was very curious to try this one. I'm a big fan of Frederic Malle, and this one, I will be honest, a bit of a letdown, but again, this is just first impressions. This is very similar, at least in the opening, very similar to Promise, which is a fragrance that I have, and it's a fragrance that it's much cheaper than Hope, because it has this kind of appley, kind of incensey, kind of dry, woodsy, but maybe the apple, I doubt that this has apple, but it gives that fruitiness overall. Not as intense as in Promise, but the opening very reminiscent of Promise. Also very incensey, dry. I don't detect much oud, at least so far. So I'm very curious to see how this will develop. But as first impressions, a bit of a letdown. Just how it happened with Acne Studios. Also a perfume that really didn't impress me at all. It's a aldehydic bomb, and I love aldehydes, but this one is just too harsh, too synthetic, very piercing. I mean, the performance is great, but in the end it's not a Frederic Malle, classic Frederic Malle fragrance.
Now, Frederic Malle's Hope, I was so curious to try this one. I was really hyped to try this fragrance. As you saw from my first impressions, I wasn't impressed, and unfortunately that remains. Basically, Hope is a lighter version of Promise that I have here, and it's a shame, really. It's really a shame, because it's basically Promise without the green apple, the big green apple note accord in the opening that Promise has, but then it has everything else, and it's really just a lighter version. You can say that it's a more elegant version of Promise, but to have that type of scent character, I would just stick with Promise. To me, it's better. It's beefier. It performs better. I love the green apple in the opening as well. So, and it's cheaper. It's considerably cheaper when comparing with Hope. Hope goes for 850 euros for a 100 ml. Same price of the Moon. And I have the Moon as well in 100 ml, and it's much better. Very different type of scent, the Moon, but it's much better than Hope. Basically, it's that the performance is okay. I mean, it's a fragrance that even after the 4 hours mark I was smelling of my skin, but it wasn't projecting at all. It was a skin scent. And yes, in the dry down, it's where it's more different from Promise, because where Promise, it's very strong and you have a big dose of cypriol, lots of spices in here. The green apple accord never entirely fades away, at least on my skin. And Hope, in the dry down, it's lighter. I would say it's more woodsy, it's more incensey. Yes, it's more elegant than Promise, I can say, but in the end, it's just that it's a lighter take on Promise. Major disappointment. And now we will talk about the most hyped niche fragrance house, Creed. Let's see my first impressions of both Delphinus and what's the other one? Centaurus.
And here we have the new release of Creed, one of the two new releases of Creed, Delphinus. I really wanted to understand what's all the fuzz around this fragrance, and quite honestly, it is disappointing. Creed is definitely going to a new direction, more mass appealing, more mainstream, more sweet, and basically it's what this represents. It's a almondy, bit irisy, vanillic, sweet fragrance. Really not impressed. Very designer-esque in my opinion. And so let's see how this will develop. But that's first impressions. Not a fan. And here we have Centaurus, the other new release from Creed. Also in the vein of Delphinus, a sweet, mass appealing, more designer-esque, a big deviation of what Creed was, more fresh, citrusy, salty fragrances. So here in Centaurus is more about cinnamon, a bit more tobacco-y, a bit more ambery, and a big dose, it seems like, of Ambroxan. Again, major disappointments, very designer-esque, doesn't smell like Creed, which is fine. It would be fine if this would smell great, but as first impressions, it's not the case.
So as you saw, for my first impressions, again, I wasn't impressed at all, and I still stand by it. These two fragrances, they could easily be a regular mainstream designer release, basically. Both are basic, to be honest. Both want to do something that has been done way too many times, both in designers and niche. And to be honest, for example, regarding Delphinus, if I want to send character in that genre of almondy, iris, sweet, vanilla, I just go either with Guerlain. I can go with Dior Homme or Dior Homme Intense. I can go even with Belle Âme by Les Astrale, which is a fantastic iris fragrance. I mean, countless and countless of perfumes that are so much better than Delphinus, to be honest. And then if I want something like Centaurus, which Centaurus is this sweet, cinnamony heavy with a bit of tobacco and tons of Ambroxan. If I want something like that, if I want a sweet tobacco fragrance, tobacco vanille, Guerlain tobacco honey, or the very best sweet tobacco fragrance, Vanille Havane by Les Indémodables. I don't need any of those two, nor I will recommend any of those two, because again, you have much better within that scent profile. So in the end, it's a big deviation from the Creed DNA, with that fresh, more salty, slightly aquatic, definitely and more elegant type of fragrances. Now it seems they want to go into this mass market, mass appealing type of sweet fragrances, which really, it's a shame, really, and it's not impressive at all. I would not mind that Creed would deviate from their usual releases, but they are not good fragrances. If they would be good perfumes, amazing, but it's not the case here. So basically Creed now is just all about Aventus, milking Aventus as much as possible, and now we have a sweet Creed, basically. It is what it is. And of course, I'm saving the best for last, Tom Ford. Tom Ford has 3 new fragrances. Newish. I mean, one of them is newish, but I think it was also released this year, if I'm not mistaken, which I haven't tried it before. So yes, Tom Ford is been quite busy. Let's see first, Oud Wood Parfum. Oud Wood Parfum, another fragrance that I was very curious to try, as I'm a big fan of the original Oud Wood. And this one is really a more intense version, at least so far. Again, first impressions. But so far, this really seems to be a more intense version of Oud Wood, which is the bestseller. A very well-known perfume from Tom Ford. Yes, I'm also very excited about this one. But price, a bit steep. But we shall see how it will perform during the day. So Oud Wood Parfum, I thought it was a more strong version of the original Oud Wood, which I have in love. And it looked like, it smelled like it would be, but it's not. It's not. It's like, basically it's Oud Wood. There is no intensity, there's no longevity. It projects even worse than Oud Wood, the original. And the longevity is not great as well. I mean, what's the point in having a parfum that doesn't even act as a parfum? I mean, it's really just a very, very redundant release and very expensive at that.
So Tom Ford Eau d'Ombre Leather, another new release that I was very curious to try. I'm a big fan of the original Ombre Leather. Not big on the Parfum version, although it's quite nice as well. But Eau d'Ombre Leather is really a deviation of the original. It's more vanillic, more sweet, and I do not detect much leather. But again, this is just first impressions, so we shall see.
So Tom Ford Eau d'Ombre Leather, I was very curious to try this fragrance as I'm a big fan of the original Ombre Leather, but Eau d'Ombre Leather has nothing in common with Ombre Leather. Ombre Leather is all about raspberry, jasmine, and of course leather. Eau d'Ombre Leather doesn't have any leather whatsoever. It's all about spicy vanillas. So it's a complete deviation from Ombre Leather. I think it could be just a standalone fragrance in general. But the biggest surprise, and whilst the performance is great actually, was the fact that I was very familiarized with that scent profile. I was like, as I was smelling, I was like, well, I know this scent. I have a fragrance that smells like this. I have it. I need to figure it out. I need to find out what fragrance it is. After like 1 hour, 2 hours, the fragrance was still strong, but I found out what fragrance I was thinking of, and it's spot on. Rosé Nomatou 5. It's exactly that fragrance, and I have that fragrance. I love it. My fiance loves that fragrance, and I was just in shock how similar it is. So Rosé Nomatou 5 is a ambery, vanillic, floral fragrance, a bit sparkly, and it's just like Eau d'Ombre Leather. Or I mean, Eau d'Ombre Leather, it's just like Rosé Nomatou 5 because Rosé Nomatou 5 came up way earlier. Actually, I have a review of this fragrance that I filmed years ago. So yes, that's your reference. Eau d'Ombre Leather is Rosé Nomatou 5.
So I'm just trying the new black lacquer from Tom Ford, which I was very curious to try. And so far, at least for first impressions, it seems that Tom Ford is back. This is a very liquorishy, dark, incensey, resinous perfume, very mysterious, very Tom Ford-esque, and it was missed. It seems like this fragrance will mark the returning of Tom Ford. Well, we shall see. But yes, so far I'm really enjoying this perfume.
And of course, I saved the best for last. While I was trying these 13 fragrances, this was the one that stood out immediately, and it continued even way after I applied this fragrance on my skin. Tom Ford Black Lacquer is amazing. It's like the return of what Tom Ford used to be like 5, 6, 7 years ago, and I was so surprised, pleasantly surprised. I was not expecting that it would happen. I mean, it's not that I didn't like and I don't like the newer private blend fragrances from Tom Ford. No, actually, I do like Hermes Barenia. I like Ibn Fumé. I even like Lost Cherry. I think it's like my guilty pleasure. And while I don't have any of these fragrances like full bottles, I really want to add them, actually. But the one that I really want is Black Lacquer. So good. Is really like a resinous, dark, smoky, mysterious type of perfume, giving vibes of Interlude Man by Amouage, but not being Interlude Man. It's just in that category of perfume. It's so good. Great performance. It's basically Tom Ford's Black Lacquer and Hermes Barenia. These two were the standouts out of these 13 fragrances. I mean, 2 out of 2 in 13. It just shows the current state of the fragrance industry. All fragrances, all fragrance brands want to mimic each other. Basically, they want to please the mass market. I mean, of course, each brand, it's a business. They need to make money to survive, but in the end, they as well cannot fully dismiss the creativity part, which it seems to be the case here. But well, we still have 2, Tom Ford's Black Lacquer and Hermes Barenia, 2 full bottle worthy. Guys, let me know in the comments down below if you already tried any of these new releases. What are your thoughts about them? If you find value in this video, please subscribe, hit the like button, and check out all the other fragrance content that I have. And see you in the next video. Take care, guys. Ciao.